Most people are not weak because they lack intelligence. They are weak because they misunderstand power. From childhood, you were trained to believe that being kind, agreeable, and helpful would protect you. You were told that patience earns respect, that silence keeps peace, that generosity builds loyalty, and for a while, it seemed true. But then something strange started happening. The more you gave, the more people took. The more you explained, the less they listened. The more available you became, the more invisible you felt. And one day, without anyone ever saying it out loud, you realized something terrifying. You are being used. Not because you are stupid, not because you are incapable, but because you are harmless. This is the truth no one prepares you for. The world does not reward goodness. It responds to structure. And when a human being has no structure, no boundaries, no capacity for consequence, society treats them like an open resource. Free, accessible, exploitable. Here is the psychological shock most people never recover from. People do not respect kindness. They respect power restrained by choice. A lion that never shows its teeth is not seen as peaceful. It is seen as irrelevant. You may believe that reacting calmly makes you mature, that explaining yourself makes you reasonable, that absorbing disrespect makes you noble. But psychologically, every time you react, justify, or overgive, you hand control to the other person. Because shame is not an emotion. Shame is a social execution. And the moment you defend yourself, the execution succeeds. This book exists for one reason: to dismantle the lies that turned you into an easy target. You are not meant to be loud. You are not meant to be cruel. You are not meant to dominate others, but you are meant to be untouchable. And untouchable does not come from aggression. It comes from something far colder, far more unsettling. Silence, scarcity, emotional independence. Most people think power is about action. They are wrong. Power is about reaction control. The one who reacts loses. The one who stays still forces the world to move around them. This is why silence terrifies manipulators. This is why emotionally unavailable people are treated with caution. This is why those who can walk away are never chased. They are respected. In the coming chapters, you will not learn how to insult back. You will not learn how to win arguments. You will not learn how to please people. You will learn something far more dangerous. You will learn why shame only works if you participate. Why explaining yourself is social suicide. Why availability destroys value. Why being nice without power creates resentment, not love. Why emotional transparency invites control. Why boundaries feel cruel to those who benefited from your lack of them. And why becoming scarce rewires how people treat you without you ever saying a word. This is not self-help. This is self-reclamation. By the end of this work, you will not feel louder. You will feel heavier. Your presence will change rooms. Your silence will end conversations. Your absence will be noticed. And the most important transformation of all, you will stop trying to be understood and start being felt. If you are looking for motivation, this is not for you. If you are looking for validation, this is not for you. If you are afraid of being misunderstood, this is not for you. But if you are ready to stop being consumed by others, if you are ready to end the cycle of overgiving and under-respect, if you are ready to become someone who cannot be manipulated, then you already belong here. Stay with this book, not as a viewer, not as a listener, but as someone who is about to change how the world responds to them. And if this way of thinking already feels familiar, if something inside you recognizes this truth, then don't follow. Align, because this channel is not built for everyone. It is built for those who are done being available and ready to become valuable. Chapter 1. Shame is social execution. Shame is not an emotion. That is the first illusion you must destroy. Fear is an emotion. Anger is an emotion. Sadness is an emotion. Shame is something far more dangerous. Shame is a social execution ritual. It does not exist to make you feel bad. It exists to reposition you. When someone shames you, publicly or privately, they are not attacking your character. They are attacking your status. And status is currency. From an evolutionary perspective, humans survived through group belonging. To be expelled from the group meant starvation, exposure, death. Shame evolved as a weapon to enforce hierarchy. It says, "You are below. You violated the unspoken rules. You need to be corrected." And the most important part, shame only works if you participate. This is why shame feels so intense. Your nervous system interprets it as existential danger. Your body reacts before your mind does. Heart rate increases, breathing shortens, thoughts race, and then comes the fatal mistake. You react, you explain, you defend, you justify, you apologize when you did nothing wrong. And in that moment, the execution is complete. Because psychologically, the instant you defend yourself, you accept the frame that you are guilty. Let this sink in. In social dynamics, innocence does not matter. Only frame control does. Shame is not about truth. It is about who is standing above whom. This is why shame is most effective in front of others. An audience transforms shame from an interaction into a performance. The shamer is not speaking to you. They are speaking through you to establish dominance in the room, and most people unknowingly assist in their own execution. They rush to prove they are good. They rush to clarify their intentions. They rush to show they are harmless, but harmlessness is not virtue. Harmlessness is vulnerability. A human with no teeth is not trusted. They are tolerated until they are used. This is why shame targets kind people disproportionately. Kind people are predictable. They value harmony. They fear conflict. They fear being misunderstood. And shame feeds on that fear. The shamer counts on one thing. You need to be seen as decent. The moment you try to repair your image, you hand them control. Because now the hierarchy is clear. They judge. You respond. They define. You explain. They attack. You absorb. And absorption is submission. This is the brutal truth. Shame does not hurt because it is painful. It hurts because it forces you into a lower position. And once that position is established, everything changes. Your words carry less weight. Your silence feels defensive. Your presence shrinks. This is why some people can be insulted and lose nothing, while others collapse from a single comment. The difference is not confidence. The difference is non-participation. Powerful individuals understand something instinctively. Shame only exists inside a shared psychological contract. If you do not sign the contract, the ritual fails. This is why indifference is so unsettling. Indifference refuses hierarchy. It denies the shamer the satisfaction of elevation. When you do not react, the attack has nowhere to land. And when an attack has no landing zone, it rebounds. This is deeply uncomfortable for the aggressor and for the audience, because the audience expects a script. They expect defensiveness. They expect an apology. They expect submission. When that script is broken, confusion enters the room. And confusion is power. But most people never reach this stage because they misunderstand silence. They think silence is a weakness. It is not. Silence is non-consent. Silence says, "I do not accept your authority to define me." This is why the most dominant response to shame is not aggression. It is stillness. Stillness communicates inner sovereignty. It signals that your self-worth is not negotiated socially. And that is terrifying to manipulators, because manipulators rely on emotional reflexes. They rely on guilt. They rely on urgency. They rely on your need to be liked. Shame is their favorite entry point. But when shame fails, when the execution is interrupted, the entire power structure wobbles. This is why shamers escalate when ignored. They raise their voices. They repeat themselves. They become dramatic, because their authority is dissolving in real time, and the audience senses it. Social gravity begins to shift. The one who remains composed becomes the reference point. The one who reacts becomes unstable. This is the hidden mechanism behind respect. Respect is not granted to the morally pure, it is granted to the emotionally sovereign. Those who cannot be pushed into reaction. This chapter exists to burn one belief out of you permanently, that explaining yourself will save you. It will not. Explanation is submission dressed as logic. From this point forward, you must see shame for what it truly is, a ritual designed to lower you. And once you see the ritual, you can step outside it. In the next chapter, you will understand why reaction itself is defeat, and why every emotional response strengthens the hand of the one who provoked it. But before you move on, lock this truth into your nervous system. You are not obligated to participate in any execution, not emotionally, not verbally, not socially. Power begins the moment you refuse the role assigned to you, and silence is where that refusal starts. Chapter 2. Reaction is defeat. Reaction feels natural. That is why it is dangerous. The human nervous system is designed to react first and think later. A sudden insult, accusation, or humiliation triggers the same biological circuitry as physical threat. Your body does not ask, "Is this socially strategic?" It asks, "Am I under attack?" And the moment you react, emotionally, verbally, or physically, you lose. Not morally, not ethically, but positionally. Reaction is not resistance. Reaction is confirmation. It confirms that the other person has access to your emotional core. It confirms that they can move you. It confirms that they are above you in the hierarchy, even if only for a moment. Power is never about who speaks louder. It is about who controls the tempo. And reaction hands the tempo away. This is why manipulators provoke first. They do not seek truth. They seek movement. If they can make you move, explain, defend, or explode, they win, because now you are responding to them instead of operating from yourself. Reaction places you inside their frame, and frames are cages. Once you are inside someone else's frame, you are playing their game with their rules for their audience. This is the brutal reality most people never accept. Every emotional reaction is a public admission of vulnerability. Anger says, "You reached me." Defensiveness says, "I care what you think." Sarcasm says, "I am wounded but pretending not to be." Over-explaining says, "Please believe me." Even humor can be submitted if it is reactive. The audience does not analyze intent. They read energy, and reactive energy is unstable energy. Stability is dominance. This is why calm people terrify chaotic ones. They cannot be moved. Reaction also collapses leverage. The person who reacts first loses negotiating power. In arguments, in relationships, in social groups, the one who reacts reveals their pressure points. The one who waits gathers information. Reaction exposes your triggers. And once a trigger is known, it becomes a button. Manipulators are not intelligent in the academic sense. They are observant. They watch what makes you tense, what makes you rush to speak, what makes you justify it. Then they press again. This is why people say, "They always know how to get to me." No, you taught them. Reaction trains your enemies. This is the hidden cost of emotional honesty without discipline. You think you are being real. They see a map. Reaction also escalates conflict automatically. When you react, the other person must escalate to maintain dominance. They cannot retreat without losing face. So insults sharpen, accusations grow, the audience becomes polarized, and suddenly, what could have died in silence becomes a public spectacle. This is why seasoned power players rarely respond immediately. They let tension hang. Silence forces the other person to sit with their own aggression. It makes them uncomfortable. Reaction relieves their discomfort and transfers it to you. Let that reverse itself in your mind. Reaction is not strength. Reaction is emotional labor performed for your opponent. Silence is refusal, but silence is misunderstood. People think silence means swallowing disrespect. It does not. Silence means not granting the attacker the authority to dictate your emotional state. There is a critical distinction here. Non-reaction is not suppression. Non-reaction is a command. You are not denying your emotions. You are delaying their expression strategically. You choose when, where, and if they are expressed. That choice is power. This is why reaction feels relieving but leaves you weaker afterward. You vent, you argue, you get it out, and yet afterward, you feel exposed, drained, reduced, because biologically, you gave away control. Non-reaction feels uncomfortable in the moment, but empowering afterward, because you preserved your position. This is why elite negotiators, interrogators, and strategists master the pause. They let silence do the work. They understand something instinctively. The person who reacts is revealing a need. The person who waits is evaluating. Reaction also destroys ambiguity. Ambiguity is protective. When people do not know what you feel, what you think, or how you will respond, they tread carefully. Reaction removes mystery. Once predictable, you are manageable. This is why people who always speak their mind are rarely respected long-term. They are transparent. They are readable. They are easy. Power prefers opacity. This does not mean cruelty. It means selectivity. Not everyone deserves access to your inner state. Reaction gives access without permission, and once given, it cannot be reclaimed. This chapter exists to reprogram one reflex inside you. That response immediately is necessary. It is not. Urgency is an illusion created by others to force mistakes. Silence buys you time. Time reveals intention. Intention exposes weakness. In the next chapter, you will learn how silence itself becomes a weapon. Not passive silence, but active psychological absence. A void that destabilizes aggressors and flips power without a single word. But before you move forward, anchor this rule deeply. If you react, you lose leverage. If you pause, you gain it. Reaction is defeat, not because it is emotional, but because it surrenders command. And power, in the end, belongs to the one who commands themselves first. Chapter 3. The Void Technique, Silence as Weapon. Most people think silence is a weakness. That belief is why silence works. Silence becomes a weapon only when others expect noise, only when reaction is assumed, only when defense is anticipated. The Void Technique is not about staying quiet out of fear. It is about removing yourself psychologically while remaining physically present. You do not disappear. You become unreadable, and unreadable people are dangerous. When someone insults you publicly, they are not speaking to you. They are performing for an audience. Shame requires witnesses. Without witnesses, it collapses. This is why humiliation is theatrical. It needs energy. It needs a response. It needs emotion. The Void Technique denies all three. You give no reaction, no explanation, no justification, no anger, no humor, not even coldness, just absence. Your face becomes neutral. Your posture remains relaxed. Your eyes stay present but empty. This is critical. You do not look away. Looking away is submission. Staring aggressively is escalating. You simply remain. 3 seconds is enough. In those 3 seconds, something uncomfortable happens. The attacker feels exposed. They expected friction. They received a vacuum. Human psychology cannot tolerate the social vacuum. The mind rushes to fill it. The shamer begins to doubt themselves. Did that land? Did I go too far? Why isn't he responding? What does everyone think now? The audience shifts attention away from you and onto them. You did not defend yourself. You made them defend themselves. This is why silence is superior to clever comebacks. A comeback still acknowledges the frame. Silence rejects the frame entirely. You are not saying, "You're wrong." You are saying, "You are irrelevant." That is far more destabilizing. The Void Technique also communicates dominance without aggression. Aggression reveals effort. Silence reveals control. Powerful people are not loud because they do not need to be. This is why high-status individuals often respond to insults with nothing more than a glance, or nothing at all. They are not suppressing emotion. They are withholding validation. And validation is the currency attackers crave. Without it, their attack starves. Silence also forces projection. When you say nothing, the other person fills the silence with their own fears. They imagine what you might be thinking. They imagine how they might look. They imagine consequences that may not exist, but feel real. Fear thrives in ambiguity. Noise removes ambiguity. Silence multiplies it. This is why manipulators hate silence. They need feedback to adjust tactics. They need emotional cues to steer. The void removes steering control. They push harder. They exaggerate. They expose themselves. This is where restraint becomes critical. Many people break silence too early. They feel pressure. They want relief. They want closure. But closure is power surrendered. The longer the silence holds, the more unbalanced the attacker becomes. This is not cruelty. This is psychological gravity. Silence pulls attention inward. Eventually, the attacker either retreats awkwardly, over-explains, escalates irrationally. All three outcomes damage them, not you. The void technique also protects your nervous system. Reaction floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. Silence keeps your physiology stable. This is not just strategic, it is sustainable. Over time, people learn something important about you. You are not easy to provoke, and people stop trying to dominate what they cannot move. This is how reputations are built quietly, not through arguments won, but through conflicts avoided. The void also teaches observers how to treat you. Humans are social learners. When they see that disrespect receives nothing, not even acknowledgement, they internalize a rule. Attacking this person brings no reward. Contrast this with reactive individuals. They become entertainment. Drama follows them. People poke them for amusement. Silence ends that cycle. But make no mistake, the void technique requires inner discipline. If inside you are boiling, the silence will leak through micro-expressions. Tension in the jaw, stiff shoulders, rapid breathing. True silence is internal neutrality. That neutrality comes from a simple realization. You do not need to correct every narrative. You do not need to defend every truth. You do not need to be understood by everyone. Understanding is optional. Respect is non-negotiable. Silence enforces that boundary. This chapter arms you with absence. The next chapter will teach you something even more surgical. How to invert the frame when silence alone is not enough. Turning the attacker into the subject and yourself into the observer. Not through aggression, but through precision. Chapter 4. Frame inversion. Psychological judo. Silence is powerful, but silence is not always sufficient. Some opponents do not collapse in the void. They escalate. They raise their voices. They sharpen the insult. They attempt to force a reaction through persistence. This is where silence alone becomes incomplete. And this is where frame inversion begins. Frame inversion is not confrontation, it is repositioning. To understand it, you must first understand what a frame is. A frame is the invisible structure that defines who is judging whom. In every social interaction, one person occupies the position of evaluator, and the other occupies the position of respondent. The one who judges holds power. The one who explains submits. Most people lose conflicts before they speak, because they accept the other person's frame automatically. An insult is not just an insult. It is an invitation into a hierarchy. When someone says, "What's wrong with you?" they are not asking a question. They are declaring authority. If you answer directly, you accept their premise. That something is wrong with you. Frame inversion destroys that premise. Instead of answering the content, you expose the behavior. You shift attention from what was said to why it was said. This is psychological judo. You do not block the force. You redirect it. You let their aggression reveal their instability. For example, instead of defending yourself, you say calmly, "Are you okay?" That single sentence detonates their frame, because now the spotlight is on them. You are no longer the defendant. You are the observer. the audience's perception flips instantly. Why? Because socially, calm curiosity ranks above emotional aggression. You did not insult them, you diagnosed them. Frame inversion works because humans are deeply sensitive to meta-signals. People pay less attention to words and more to who seems composed. Composure implies authority. Authority implies legitimacy. This is why therapists, judges, and interrogators speak the way they do. They do not argue with emotional statements. They analyze them. Frame inversion copies that posture. Another example. Someone says, "That was a stupid thing to say." A reactive response defends intelligence. A silent response may work once, but frame inversion goes further. "That was a strange thing to say out loud." Notice the shift. You did not accept the insult. You labeled the behavior as odd. Oddness is destabilizing. It suggests a breach of social norms on their part. Now the audience is unconsciously evaluating them. This technique is devastating because it introduces doubt, and doubt erodes dominance. Frame inversion also prevents escalation. Aggression feeds on counter-aggression. It dies in diagnostic calm. The attacker expects resistance. They receive an assessment. This short-circuits their momentum. But there is a critical rule. Frame inversion must be minimal, one sentence, sometimes one word. Anything more becomes explanation, and explanation collapses the inversion. Precision matters. Think of frame inversion as a scalpel, not a hammer. Another powerful inversion. Who are you trying to impress right now? This question is lethal because it reframes the attack as performance. Suddenly, the aggressor is exposed as insecure. They are no longer powerful, they are seeking approval. The audience feels it immediately. Humans instinctively distrust attention-seeking aggression. Authority does not seek applause. This is why frame inversion humiliates without hostility. You did not attack their character. You revealed their motivation. Motivation is harder to defend than behavior. Behavior can be justified. Motivation cannot. Frame inversion also protects your emotional core. You are not suppressing anger. You are not swallowing disrespect. You are redirecting the interaction into a structure where you hold leverage. This prevents internal damage. Reactive people feel drained after conflicts. Frame controllers feel untouched because they were never inside the blast radius. This technique requires one inner shift. You must stop needing the other person to understand you. The moment you crave understanding, you surrender position. Frame inversion assumes something radical. Your self-definition is non-negotiable. You are not here to be interpreted. You are here to observe. This mindset is rare. That is why it works. Most people cannot tolerate the discomfort of being misunderstood, so they over-explain. Frame inversion weaponizes that discomfort against the aggressor. They now feel misunderstood. They now feel exposed. They now feel unstable, and instability is weakness. But understand this clearly. Frame inversion is not sarcasm. It is not mockery. It is not passive aggression. Those are still reactions. True frame inversion is emotionless clarity. Your tone must remain neutral. Your body language relaxed. Your eyes are steady. If emotion leaks, the frame collapses. This is why earlier chapters matter. Without silence and non-reaction, frame inversion becomes theatrical. With silence as foundation, frame inversion becomes surgical. Once deployed correctly, something permanent happens. People learn a rule about you. Attacking this person backfires, and humans avoid situations where the cost exceeds the reward. This is how dominance is established without confrontation, not by winning arguments, but by making arguments unprofitable. In the next chapter, we will explore a subtler weapon, amused agreement. How owning your flaws without shame disarms attacks completely, and makes insults slide off you like oil, not because you are defensive, but because you are beyond the need to defend. Chapter 5. Amused agreement, owning flaws. There is a point where silence is no longer enough. There is also a point where inversion is no longer necessary. At that point, power takes a quieter form. it becomes ownership. Most insults work for one simple reason. They try to expose something you are afraid of admitting. An accusation only has force when it carries shame. Remove the shame, and the weapon becomes useless. This is where the amused agreement begins. Amused agreement is not self-deprecation. It is not humor to please others. It is not defensive laughter. It is sovereign acceptance. You do not argue with the accusation. You do not deny it. You do not justify it. You simply acknowledge it, calmly, lightly, without emotional charge. And in doing so, you disarm the attacker completely, because now there is nothing left to attack. Understand this clearly. An insult requires resistance to function. If you resist, it pushes. If you collapse, it crushes. If you absorb without tension, it dissolves. Most people resist because they believe flaws reduce status. That belief is false. Unowned flaws reduce status. Owned flaws increase it. Why? Because ownership signals internal security, and internal security is rare. When someone says, "You're too quiet," the weak response is explanation. The reactive response is anger. The inverted response is diagnosis. But amused agreement simply says, "Yeah, I am," and nothing else. No tone, no defense, no follow-up. That sentence lands differently. Because it communicates, "I am aware, I am unbothered, and I am not seeking approval." The attacker expected discomfort. They received ease. This creates psychological whiplash. Their attack had nowhere to attach. The mind searches for leverage and finds none. This is why the amused agreement feels arrogant to insecure people. Not loud arrogance, quiet arrogance, the kind that does not need validation. Amused agreement also reverses the social hierarchy. Why? Because the person who can acknowledge their flaws without anxiety is the one least controlled by social pressure. Control always flows toward the person with fewer emotional liabilities. The moment you own a flaw publicly, it becomes unusable. It is no longer a secret, no longer sensitive, no longer a pressure point. This is why blackmail fails against those with nothing to hide. The same principle applies socially. If someone says, "You're selfish," and you reply calmly, "Sometimes, yes," the insult collapses, because now the word selfish no longer defines you negatively. It becomes descriptive, not accusatory. And the description does not hurt. But there is a critical distinction here. Amused agreement must be emotionless. If you agree with bitterness, it becomes surrender. If you agree with sarcasm, it becomes a defense. If you agree with humor-seeking approval, it becomes appeasement. The power lies in neutral acknowledgement. This neutrality communicates something deeper. You are not trying to be seen as good. You are trying to be accurate. Accuracy outranks morality in power dynamics. People trust those who can see themselves clearly. They distrust those who curate an image. This is why leaders often admit faults without apology. They do not confess. They state facts. And facts do not lower status when spoken from authority. Amused agreement also triggers cognitive dissonance in the attacker. They prepared for resistance. They prepared for justification. They prepared for embarrassment. They did not prepare for comfort. Comfort in the face of accusation feels unnatural. It forces the attacker to confront an uncomfortable truth. They are not affecting you, and people who cannot affect you cannot control you. This is why amused agreement often ends interactions abruptly. The attacker grows quiet, changes subject, withdraws, not because you defeated them, but because the game stopped working. However, this technique requires a strong internal foundation. If you secretly hate your flaws, an amused agreement will feel painful. It will feel like betrayal of self. This chapter therefore demands something deeper than technique. Shadow acceptance. You must integrate the parts of yourself you fear being exposed, not to excuse them, not to glorify them, but to neutralize their emotional charge. Once neutralized, they cannot be weaponized. This is why people who have done deep internal work are untouchable socially. They have already confronted themselves. There is nothing left to shame. This is also why manipulators avoid people who laugh gently at accusations. They prefer targets who need approval. Amused agreement removes that need. But be precise. You do not overshare. You do not confess weaknesses unnecessarily. You do not volunteer ammunition. You only agree when attacked. This preserves scarcity. You are not transparent by default. You are unreactive by choice. This keeps the power dynamic intact. Amused agreement is not submission. It is disarming without engagement. And that disarmament teaches observers something critical. This person is comfortable in their skin. Comfort signals rank. People instinctively defer to those who appear internally settled. This chapter completes an important psychological arc. Chapter 1 taught you that shame is execution. Chapter 2 taught you that reaction is defeat. Chapter 3 taught you silence as a weapon. Chapter 4 taught you to invert frames. Now, Chapter 5 teaches you immunity, not by fighting attacks, but by rendering them obsolete. In the next chapter, we will move beyond the attacker entirely. We will explore how power shifts when the audience becomes the focus, and how winning the room matters more than winning the argument, because shame is never a private act. It is a performance, and the one who controls the audience controls the outcome. Chapter 6. Winning the audience. By now, you understand something most people never realize. Shame is never private. It is a theater. There is always an audience, even if it is only imagined. And power in social conflict does not belong to the loudest voice. It belongs to the one who controls perception. Up to this point, you have learned how to neutralize the attacker. Silence denies them momentum. Frame inversion exposes their instability. Amused agreement removes shame. But now, we move one layer deeper, because the attacker was never the real target. The audience was. Every public shaming attempt is a performance. The shamer is not trying to defeat you. They are trying to position themselves above you in the social hierarchy. They want witnesses, approval, laughter, validation. They want the room to lean toward them. And this is where most people make a fatal mistake. They fight the attacker directly, while ignoring the room. This guarantees loss, because even if you win the argument, you still lose status if the audience perceives you as reactive, defensive, or emotionally compromised. Winning the audience requires a shift in mindset. You are no longer responding to the attacker. You are communicating to the observers. The attacker becomes secondary. This is why powerful individuals rarely argue. They perform calmly, and calm is contagious. The audience does not side with logic. They side with emotional safety. Who feels stable? Who feels composed? Who looks unbothered? That person gains unconscious authority. This is why silence works so well in public. Not because it embarrasses the attacker, but because it unsettles the audience. Silence forces everyone to look again. It creates a vacuum. And in that vacuum, people start reading body language, tone, posture, eye contact. This is where dominance is decided. If you appear grounded, the audience assumes confidence. If you appear rushed, they assume guilt. If you appear calm, they assume control. You do not need to win verbally. You need to win visually and emotionally. This is why minimal responses outperform clever comebacks. A short pause, a neutral expression, a slow breath. These signals communicate, "I am not threatened," and the audience responds to that signal instantly. They may not articulate it, but they feel it. Now understand something crucial. The audience is not rational. They are tribal. They look for cues about who to follow, and humans follow the one who appears least affected by pressure. Pressure reveals hierarchy. Who bends first loses rank. This is why public composure matters more than private truth. Truth without composure sounds like an excuse. Composure without truth still commands respect. This is uncomfortable for idealists, but undeniable in reality. Winning the audience also means knowing when not to speak. Silence is not emptiness. It is framing. When you stay quiet, the audience fills the gap with assumptions. Your job is to let those assumptions favor you. This is why over-explaining is fatal. Explanation looks like pleading. Pleading looks like weakness. The audience does not reward weakness. They punish it. Even sympathetic audiences lose respect for those who over-defend. This is why the most powerful move is often withdrawal. Not storming off. Not dramatic exits, but calm disengagement. A glance away. A shift of attention. A return to your task. This communicates, this interaction is beneath my focus. And focus is the ultimate status symbol. Now, let's talk about triangulation. This is one of the most advanced audience control techniques. Instead of addressing the attacker, you subtly acknowledge a third party, a brief glance, a faint smile, a shared look. This creates a silent alliance. The attacker becomes isolated. The audience feels included. And inclusion creates loyalty. Suddenly, the shamer is no longer us. They are them. And social dynamics shift instantly. This is why humor, used sparingly, can be lethal. Not jokes at the attacker's expense, but calm, understated amusement. It signals that you are not emotionally invested, and people trust those who do not seek emotional outcomes. They assume you see the bigger picture. Another critical principle: never attempt to humiliate the attacker. Humiliation backfires. It makes the audience uncomfortable. They fear being next, and when people feel fear, they withdraw support. Your goal is not to destroy the attacker publicly. Your goal is to let them self-destruct. People always reveal themselves when given space. The audience notices tone shifts, escalation, desperation, and they assign blame accordingly. Your stillness becomes contrast. Contrast creates clarity. This is why power is quiet. Noise hides insecurity. Silence exposes it. Winning the audience also requires understanding time. Do not respond immediately. Delay communicates deliberation. Even a 2-second pause elevates status. It signals choice. Reactive people respond instantly. Powerful people choose when to respond. And the audience notices that difference instinctively. Over time, something interesting happens. People stop testing you, not because you fought back, but because testing you produces no reward, no drama, no reaction, no validation. Shamers seek emotional payoff. When the payoff disappears, the behavior stops. But something else replaces it. Respect, not warmth, not affection. Respect, the kind that keeps people cautious around you. And caution is a form of power. This chapter completes the external battle. You now understand how shame operates, why reaction is defeat, how silence creates imbalance, how agreement disarms attacks, and how the audience decides outcomes. In the next chapter, we will move inward, because none of these techniques work without internal control. We will explore why emotional autonomy is the true source of power, and how detachment makes you unreadable, unpredictable, and untouchable. The audience may crown you, but only if you have already mastered yourself. Chapter 7: Emotional Autonomy and the Grey Rock State. Up to this point, everything you have learned has been external. You learned how shame operates. You learned why reaction equals defeat. You learned how silence destabilizes. You learned how the audience decides power. But now we arrive at the most important truth of all. None of this works if you are still emotionally dependent, because emotional dependence is the real weakness manipulators exploit. People do not control you by force. They control you through emotional hooks. Approval, fear of rejection, need to be understood, need to be liked, need to be seen as good. As long as those needs exist, you are vulnerable. This chapter is about removing those hooks. This is where emotional autonomy begins. Emotional autonomy means this: your internal state is no longer dictated by other people's reactions. Praise does not inflate you. Criticism does not collapse you. Silence does not scare you. Disapproval does not threaten you. You become internally governed, and the technique that represents this state most clearly is known as the Grey Rock. But understand this immediately. Grey Rock is not passive. Grey Rock is not a weakness. Grey rock is not being nice. Grey rock is a strategic emotional withdrawal. It is the refusal to provide emotional fuel. Manipulators feed on reaction. They need anger. They need defensiveness. They need explanations. They need emotional movement. When you become emotionally flat, they starve. This is why grey rock feels unnatural at first. Because you were conditioned to respond. From childhood, you were taught. Explain yourself. Defend your intentions. Prove you're not bad. Fix misunderstandings. But every explanation trains people that you are negotiable. Every emotional reaction teaches others where your buttons are. Grey rock removes the buttons, not by hiding emotion, but by no longer outsourcing your worth. The grey rock state is simple on the surface. Short answers, neutral tone, no emotional charge, no storytelling, no justification. But internally, it requires something far deeper. It requires that you stop seeking validation. Most people do not realize how addicted they are to validation. They say, "I don't care what people think," but their nervous system says otherwise. Their body tightens when criticized. Their heart races when misunderstood. Their mind replays conversations at night. That is emotional dependence. Autonomy begins when those reactions fade, not because you suppress them, but because you no longer identify with them. This is where most people fail. They try to act calm while still feeling desperate inside. Manipulators can smell this instantly. Grey rock only works when it is authentic. And authenticity requires internal restructuring. You must accept a difficult truth. Some people will never understand you. Some people will misinterpret you. Some people will dislike you for no reason. And none of that is your responsibility. The moment you accept this, emotional freedom begins. Emotional autonomy does not mean you feel nothing. It means feelings no longer command action. You feel irritation, but you do not react. You feel discomfort, but you do not explain. You feel misunderstood, but you do not chase clarity. This is what makes you unpredictable. And unpredictability terrifies manipulators. They rely on scripts. When you deviate from the script, they lose control. Grey rock breaks the script. No drama, no resistance, no reward, just presence. This is why emotionally autonomous people appear cold to the dependent. Because dependence needs response, and autonomy offers none. Now understand something crucial. Grey rock is not permanent behavior for everyone. It is a selective weapon. You do not use it with healthy, respectful people. You use it with manipulators, energy vampires, chronic shamers, boundary violators. With healthy people, you can be warm. With unhealthy people, you must be opaque. This discernment is power. Another key principle. Do not announce that you are using grey rock. Do not explain your boundaries. Explanation invites negotiation. Negotiation invites pressure. Pressure invites manipulation. Your silence is the boundary. Your consistency is the enforcement. This is where many people weaken. They enforce boundaries emotionally, apologizing, justifying, softening. That defeats the purpose. Boundaries are not requests. They are conditions. Grey rock conditions others without words. Over time, something interesting happens. Manipulators escalate. They poke harder. They provoke more. They test again. This is not failure. This is extinction behavior. They are trying to get the old reaction back. If you stay consistent, they retreat. If you break once, they double down. Consistency is everything. This is why emotional autonomy requires discipline. Not motivational discipline, but identity discipline. You must see yourself as someone who does not perform emotionally for others. You are not an emotional vending machine. You are not a justification service. You are not responsible for managing other people's discomfort. This identity shift changes everything. Your nervous system calms. Your thoughts slow. Your presence becomes heavier. People feel it, even if they can't explain it. And here is the paradox. When you stop trying to be understood, you become respected. When you stop trying to be liked, You become influential. When you stop explaining, people listen. This chapter is about reclaiming inner authority. Authority does not come from dominance. It comes from self-governance. The grey rock state is not empty. It is sovereignty. In the next chapter, we go even deeper, because emotional autonomy is only the beginning. Next, we will explore how internal identity must die before a new, untouchable self can emerge. We will confront the hardest transformation of all, letting go of the version of you that needed approval to survive. Chapter 8. The death of the old self. Emotional autonomy changes how you respond, but it does not yet change who you are. And as long as the old identity survives, power remains temporary, because the greatest enemy you will ever face is not manipulators, critics, or shamers. It is the version of you that needed them. The old self was not weak by accident. It was designed for survival. It learned early that approval meant safety, agreement meant belonging, silence meant danger, rejection meant abandonment. So it adapted. It became polite instead of honest, helpful instead of sovereign, explaining instead of commanding. This self kept you alive, but it will never make you powerful. Every transformation reaches a point where skills are no longer enough. At this stage, identity must collapse. This chapter is not about improvement. It is about elimination. The old self cannot be upgraded. It must be buried. Because two identities cannot rule the same mind, the old self operates on external permission. It asks, is this okay? Do they approve? What will they think? The sovereign self does not ask. It decides, and the gap between those two selves is where most people freeze forever. They want strength without losing the comfort of being liked. That is impossible. Power demands sacrifice. And the first sacrifice is identity. The death of the old self begins quietly. No announcement, no ceremony, no dramatic moments. It begins with discomfort. You stop explaining and feel anxiety. You stop pleasing and feel guilt. You stop reacting and feel empty. That emptiness is not weakness. It is withdrawal. Your nervous system is detoxing from validation addiction. Because make no mistake, approval is a drug. It releases dopamine. It calms fear. It masks insecurity. When you remove it, the mind panics. This is where most people turn back. They say, this feels wrong. I'm becoming cold. I'm losing myself. No, you are losing the mask. The old self was a strategy, not your essence. It existed to avoid pain, but avoidance is not power. The death of the old self requires something brutal. You must let people misunderstand you. You must let them be disappointed. You must let them think you changed. You did. And change always looks like betrayal to those who benefited from your weakness. This is why transformation attracts accusations. You're selfish now. You're cold now. You think you're better than us. These accusations are not attacks. They are withdrawal symptoms. From people who lost access to you, the old self would rush to correct the image. The new self stays silent. This silence is not arrogance. It is non-participation. The death process has stages. First, resistance. Your mind argues. This is unnecessary. You're overdoing it. Just explain one more time. Second, grief. You mourn the loss of belonging, the comfort of being needed, the identity of the good one. Third, emptiness. The old scripts stop running, but the new ones haven't formed yet. This is the most dangerous phase, because emptiness tempts relapse. People return to people-pleasing. Not because it works, but because it feels familiar. If you endure this phase, something changes. A new center forms. You stop checking reactions. You stop managing impressions. You stop negotiating your boundaries internally. This is the birth of internal authority. Authority is not loud. It is settled. It does not need confirmation. It does not rush to be understood. It does not chase alignment. It moves and lets others adjust. The sovereign self does not explain its existence, it embodies it. And here is the key transformation. You stop asking, "How do I appear?" and start asking, "What must be done?" This shift changes everything. Your voice slows. Your words reduce. Your presence deepens. People feel it instinctively. Because certainty is magnetic. Not certainty of outcome, certainty of self. The death of the old self also means ending the fantasy of fairness. The old self believed, if I'm good, I'll be treated well. Reality does not work that way. Power respects strength, not intentions. Boundaries, not goodness. Consistency, not kindness. The sovereign self understands this. Without bitterness, it does not hate people. It simply stops being naive. This is not about becoming cruel. It is about becoming ungovernable. The old self needed reassurance. The new self needs alignment. The old self feared rejection. The new self accepts isolation as a cost of clarity, because solitude is lighter than constant self-betrayal. And here is the final test. You will know the old self is dead when you no longer feel the urge to prove who you are. No defending, no justifying, no oversharing. Just action, just boundaries, just presence. In the next chapter, we move forward from identity death to sovereignty, because once the old self is gone, a question remains: who governs you now? That is where true power begins. Chapter 9. Building the Sovereign Self. The death of the old self creates silence, not peace. Silence. And silence is dangerous if you do not know what to build inside it. Most people collapse here. They remove the old identity, but replace it with nothing. They stop pleasing, but do not start commanding. They stop reacting, but do not start directing. This creates confusion. Confusion invites control. That is why this chapter exists, because power does not come from destroying weakness alone. It comes from installing governance. The sovereign self is not emotional freedom. It is authority over yourself. And authority requires structure. The old self was ruled by emotions, fear, and approval. The sovereign self is ruled by principles, not beliefs, not opinions, principles. Principles do not change when feelings change. They do not ask for permission. They do not negotiate under pressure. They execute. To build the sovereign self, you must answer one question honestly. Who decides when things get uncomfortable? If the answer is fear, guilt, habit, other people, you are not sovereign. You are governed. Sovereignty begins when you obey yourself, not the version that wants comfort, but the version that commands direction. This is where most people misunderstand power. They think sovereignty means control over others. No, sovereignty means no one controls you. Not praise, not criticism, not loneliness, not urgency. The sovereign self does not rush because it does not panic. It understands something fundamental. Speed without direction is chaos. Emotion without command is noise. So it slows down. It watches. It chooses. The sovereign self builds an internal hierarchy. At the top is the mission. The mission below is discipline. Below discipline is emotion, not the other way around. Most people live inverted. Emotion on top, discipline negotiable, mission vague. This inversion makes them manipulable, because anyone who can trigger emotion can redirect behavior. The sovereign self reverses this. Emotion becomes data, not command. It is observed, not obeyed. Anger is noticed. Fear is acknowledged. Desire is measured. But action follows order, not feeling. This is why sovereign individuals appear calm, not because they feel less, but because they decide more. To build this structure, you must define non-negotiables, not goals. Standards. Goals can change. Standards cannot. Standards answer questions like, what behavior do I never tolerate? What actions do I take regardless of mood? What price am I willing to pay for integrity? Without standards, power leaks. You hesitate. You explain. You compromise yourself. The sovereign self does not seek agreement. It seeks alignment. If alignment is not possible, it withdraws. No drama, no argument, no persuasion. Withdrawal is a sovereign act, because attention is currency, and sovereigns do not give currency to chaos. Another key trait of the sovereign self is internal validation. This does not mean ego. It means conclusion. You do not need to be seen as strong. If you are strong, you do not need to be respected. If you respect your own standards, external validation becomes optional, and what is optional cannot control you. This is why sovereign individuals often become unpredictable, not because they are impulsive, but because they are no longer performing. They do not act for reactions. They act for results. This unsettles people, because predictability is how control works. If someone can predict your response, they can design your behavior. The sovereign self breaks patterns. It pauses where others react. It withdraws where others argue. It moves silently where others announce. This silence is not a weakness. It is opaque. Opacity is power. Clear glass is easy to break. Opaque steel is not. The sovereign self also understands that loneliness is not failure. Dependence is. It chooses solitude over submission, because isolation with direction is safer than belonging without sovereignty. This does not mean rejecting people. It means rejecting need. Need creates leverage for others. Sovereignty removes that leverage. And here is the hardest truth. You cannot be sovereign and loved by everyone. Power creates distance, not because you push people away, but because you stop chasing proximity. Some will call you cold. Others will call you arrogant. Both are projections. They feel the loss of access. The sovereign self does not correct the narrative. It lets outcomes speak, because authority does not explain itself. It demonstrates. This chapter ends where transformation becomes irreversible. Once sovereignty is installed, you cannot return to ignorance. You see manipulation instantly. You feel misaligned immediately. You sense when your energy is being drained, and you act quietly, decisively, without apology. In the final chapter, we remove the last illusion, the belief that life should be planned, because a sovereign does not chase outcomes. Outcomes chase positioning, and that is where the final operating system begins. Chapter 10, Living Without Goals, Moving with Force. Goals promise control. Force creates inevitability. This is the final separation between those who hope for outcomes and those who produce them. By now, you have seen the pattern. Goals make you busy, not powerful. Plans made you rigid, not effective. Ambition made noise, not progress. Because goals are external anchors, they tie your identity to a future point, and any identity tied to the future is weak in the present. The sovereign does not live this way. The sovereign does not move toward something. He moves from something. From clarity, from position, from internal command. This is living without goals, not directionless, but unchained. When you remove goals, you remove desperation. When you remove desperation, you remove manipulation, because manipulation feeds on urgency. People rush when they fear losing time. The sovereign understands something deeper. Time does not reward effort. It rewards alignment. Force is not aggression. Force is pressure applied without tension. It is a calm motion with consequence. Think of gravity. It does not chase. It does not announce. It does not negotiate. Yet nothing escapes it. This is force. Force comes from positioning. No effort. Not hustle. Not motivation. Position decides leverage. Leverage decides outcomes. And outcomes, repeated quietly, become a reputation. The sovereign moves where momentum already exists. He does not ask, "What do I want?" He asks, "Where does power flow, and how do I stand inside it?" This is why goals fail. They ask you to run uphill while carrying identity on your back. Force removes friction. It lets terrain do the work. Living without goals does not mean passivity. It means responsiveness. The sovereign reads reality continuously. He does not fall in love with plans. He adapts without emotional loss. Change does not feel like failure. It feels like a correction. This adaptability terrifies rigid minds, because rigidity needs rules. Force needs awareness. The sovereign self operates on 3 silent laws. Never announce movement, never rush timing, never explain direction. Explanation invites interference. Announcement invites resistance. Urgency invites mistakes. So the sovereign moves quietly, not because he hides, but because power does not need witnesses. Most people burn energy trying to prove progress. The sovereign invests energy to create gravity. This is why success often looks sudden. It is not sudden. It is unseen. Living without goals also frees you from disappointment, because disappointment comes from expectation. Expectation comes from attachment. Attachment comes from ego. Force has no ego. It does not care how long it takes. It only cares that the movement continues. Slow progress with positioning beats fast progress with misalignment. This is why sovereign individuals often appear patient. But patience is not waiting. It is selective action. They say no more than they say yes. They exit faster than they enter. They build systems instead of chasing wins. Wins are temporary. Systems compound. The sovereign does not count achievements. He counts control. Control over time. Control over emotion. Control over access. And the highest form of control is not domination. It is independence. When you live without goals, you stop measuring life in milestones. You measure it in command. Can I say no without guilt? Can I walk away without fear? Can I remain calm when others escalate? These are real metrics. And when these metrics are strong, external results follow automatically. This is the paradox. By letting go of outcomes, you become unstoppable, because nothing pulls you off center. Failure becomes data. Success becomes confirmation. Neither defines you. This is force. The man who moves with force does not chase opportunity. Opportunity adjusts to him because his presence signals stability, and stability attracts alignment. People want to orbit certainty. This is why sovereign individuals often gain influence without trying. They are not persuasive. They are grounded. Grounded people do not sell visions. They embody direction. This chapter ends where fear dissolves, because fear lives in imagined futures. When you stop living for futures, fear loses fuel. You act now. You choose now. You withdraw now. You advance now, without noise, without rushing, without permission. In the final words of this book, we seal the transformation, not with motivation, but with identity, because you are no longer becoming something. You are no longer chasing power. You are unmanipulable, and that is freedom. The man who cannot be manipulated, if you are still listening, understands something important. You are not here by accident. Most people quit before the end, not because they disagree, but because endings demand responsibility. Beginnings inspire, endings transform, and transformation is uncomfortable. What you have heard in this book was never meant to motivate you. Motivation fades. This was meant to restructure you, because manipulation does not attack strength. It causes confusion. It feeds on emotional leaks, on unguarded boundaries, on people who explain themselves, announce their intentions, and beg to be understood. You are no longer that person, not because you memorize techniques, but because your internal posture has shifted. You now understand that shame is a weapon. That reaction is surrender. That silence is not weakness, but it is a command. You learned that power is not loud, it is stable. You learned that respect is not requested, it is generated. And, most importantly, you learned that being harmless is not virtuous. Virtue without teeth is permission to be used. The man who cannot be manipulated does not threaten, he does not posture, he simply does not respond, where the response would give power away. He does not over-explain, he does not overshare, he does not overcommit, he moves selectively. He speaks when it changes reality, not when it relieves emotion. This man understands a truth that most never accept. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate, and you no longer tolerate confusion, disrespect, or emotional extraction. You are calm, not because you are passive, but because you are prepared to walk away, prepared to withdraw access, prepared to let silence do the work. This is not cruelty. This is self-sovereignty. You are not trying to dominate others. You are ending the era where others dominated your internal state. That is the real victory. Because once your inner world is sealed, external manipulation fails automatically. Notice what has changed. You no longer feel the urge to justify yourself. You no longer rush to correct perceptions. You no longer chase validation from people who offer no value. That urge used to feel like morality. Now you see it clearly. It was fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being excluded. Fear of being seen as the villain. But here is the final truth. To weak minds, boundaries look like cruelty. To manipulators, silence looks like hostility. To users, scarcity looks like arrogance. And to all of them, your growth will look like betrayal. That is not your burden to carry, because you are no longer living to be liked. You are living to be unreachable. This does not mean isolation from the world. It means selectivity. You choose environments carefully. You choose relationships deliberately. You choose battles rarely and exit them quickly. You are not dramatic. You are decisive. And decisiveness is terrifying to those who survive in chaos. The man who cannot be manipulated is not aggressive. He is centered. He does not need approval. He does not need to prove intelligence. He does not need to win arguments. He wins by not playing weak games. And now, you stand at a threshold. You can close this book and return to old reflexes, or you can move forward with this new internal structure. Because this book did not give you answers. It gave you filters. Filters that decide what enters your mind, your time, your emotional space. If you apply nothing else, apply this. Respond less. Observe more. Withdraw faster. Explain never. Let your absence teach the lesson. Your words never could. And one final thing. If this book sharpened something inside you, if it clarified patterns you could feel, but never name, then understand this. This work continues. Not louder, not softer, deeper. If you choose to stay connected, do it not as a follower, but as someone building internal mastery. Subscribe not for content, but for alignment, because the future works ahead are not for everyone. They are for those who refuse to be used, refuse to be shamed, and refuse to be controlled. You are no longer just listening. You are becoming, and the man who cannot be manipulated does not announce his next move. He simply moves.